Well, welcome everyone to this latest edition of Stories for Healing. Um, I'm very pleased tonight to be able to bring to you Martin Manasse, who's coming to us from the UK. And Martin has a story for us. So, Martin, please tell us a story.
Well, a man and a woman lived in a cottage on the edge of the forest. Well, I mean, you could call it a cottage. I mean, the rain came through the roof, the wind came through the walls. It was a pretty miserable place. And they barely eked a living from their forestry work, such as it was. And yet they were quite cheerful, really. The one thing that bothered the wife was the lack of a child. She desperately wanted a child. And that was kind of the main theme in the conversation. And then one morning, her husband came to her and said, I don't know whether I've had a dream or a vision, but last night when I thought I was asleep, there was a man in a big red cloak. And he said, be ready. Child, money, and patience will visit you, but you can only keep one of them. So be ready. But I think probably it was just a dream. Oh, no, said his wife. They will come. We must be ready. We must go out and get things. So they went into the forest and they looked for berries and fruit, and maybe they could catch a small animal or anything that would be good to eat, and leaves and roots and anything else. And they also found some moss, which they tried to stuff into the holes of the cottage, but as soon as it dried, it fell out again. But one way or another, they busied themselves about making the cottage as welcoming as it could be for these three honoured guests. And some distance away, Child, Money, and Patience made their way and came to a river. And as soon as Child saw the river, he flung himself on his back, had a tremendous tantrum, and said, I'm not going in there. I don't get wet. I don't want to get wet. I'm not going in the river. Money stood by the bank and looked. Oh, I'm much too smart for this. Oh, no, I can't get wet. Patience didn't say a word. He just picked up Child, carried him across, came back, picked up Money, carried him across, and so they continued. And they came to the cottage. And Child ran in, was immediately into everything. Cupboard doors open, pots and pans flying about. There was a clattering and a banging. The wife was delighted, absolutely thrilled. Money stood in the doorway, sniffing. Oh, look at this place. Holes in the roof, holes in the walls, earth floor. Oh, this place needs me. Goodness me, it needs me. Patience stayed outside until invited in. And then she brought the food. And Child was into it with both hands, all over his face, all down his clothes, stuffing it in wherever. I mean, the wife was in heaven. She just loved it. Money looked on disparagingly. This is very, very, very mean fare. I can't eat this. Oh no, I'm much too smart for this. And Patience, well, came to the table when invited, but not before. She took the pots to the sink, and when she came back, the room was very quiet, and she stared because at the table, her husband was sitting with Patience. I chose Patience, he said. But I wanted Child, she said. And she burst into tears, flung herself on the bed, and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And some distance away, Child and Money came to the river. And Child flung himself on the ground, had a massive tantrum. I'm not going in there. I'm not going to get wet. And Money stood by the bank and looked. I'm far too smart to get myself wet. This will not do at all. And then they stopped, and there was a long silence. And then Child said, where is Patience? And so they turned, and they went back to the cottage. And it is said that if you have patience, Child and Money will follow.
It's not. There we
No,
go. Yeah, here I am. He wouldn't let me unmute. What a great story. What a great story. If you have patience, child and money will follow.
I have to say, when I first heard it told by a wonderful storyteller who rejoices in the name of Toop, the unprincipled, unprecedented preacher, or whatever he is, a delightful man, and I've known him for about 25, 26 years, and he's a great friend. And he tells that story, of course, with wonderful, wonderful accents and
Sure.
intonations. But I just think that the story itself stands up so well.
It does.
And
It does.
I also firmly believe that my nature is not to do accents because my accents are dreadful. And so I just tell the story. It's a gift. I just tell it. And if you like it, take
Yeah,
it.
I do. Yeah. And
And
do you have any sense of? You said this was someone who was born in Guyana who told you this. Do you know if it came from there? Do you know anything about its
I
origin?
think actually possibly not, because I came across another version, which
Mm-hmm.
is quite interesting. Because in that version, when he's had the dream, the husband goes into the village and asks a neighbor what he thinks he should do.
Uh-huh.
And the neighbor is instantly jealous
Uh-huh.
and says, and he's terrified this man will choose money.
Uh-huh.
And so he says, oh, you must choose patience. You must choose patience, see. And so he does. And the outcome, of course, is in his favor. And the
Sure.
neighbor is deeply discomforted. But
Yes.
I feel that complicated slightly.
Yeah. 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 Oh, I
I like
agree.
to think of it much more. Um, I love the notion in so many stories that people just have an instinct to do the right thing
To do
in
the
the
right
right
thing.
way. And in a way, there's a sort of sense that, I mean, because we're missing it in this world, there's a sense of integrity about what goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that the woman wants a child. She doesn't care if it rattles about, if it bangs about, if it smears food. She just wants the child.
Sure.
And her sheer joy in that child
Yeah.
is really quite infectious.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are a lot of images in the story that I love.
Yep. Yep. And the lesson is, beyond the obvious one also is that if you pay attention to your better instincts, if you're in a sense patient with yourself, although even more than that, if you're true to yourself, then good things can manage to happen,
Mm.
but maybe not right away. Maybe not right away.
I told it once at the request of a friend in a private meeting, and there was an 8-year-old girl there who was very bored, and we gave her pencil and paper,
Uh-huh.
and we said, just draw anything you like.
Sure.
And when I'd finished the story, she'd drawn the story.
Ah,
She'd had the river, she had everything else. And it's interesting because we were discussing the story, and my dear friend and colleague Malcolm Green, who is a wonderful storyteller and a great environmentalist, said to me, Martin, I could see money so clearly, and I could see child so clearly, but I had really no idea
ah,
what patience looked like.
yeah,
So we looked at the child's drawing,
yeah.
and she'd drawn patience as a cat,
As a cat.
as a cat.
Ah,
Yes.
very
But
interesting.
it was lovely. She had the whole journey from from the top of the page, came down over the river, came to the house. But patience was
Patience
a
was a cat.
cat.
I just want to thank you all for being here for this episode of Stories for Healing. Be sure to find them on our Facebook page or on the YouTube playlist. You can find them all there. Watch one you've seen before or catch up with those you haven't. In any event, be a little patient. We'll see you.